Hey there, friends. This is Bill McDonald. This is the Common Sense Math Doctor. And today I'm going to be doing question number 1 from my 6th grade mini math problems from last year's test. This is based on question number 6. It got a state percent correct of only 45%. Reporting category 2. It was a supporting standard, which means they should have learned it in 5th grade. It's student expectation 6.10b. All right. So the question, as we read, underline, label, eliminate, and explain, select the answer in the book and the Scantron, and you're done. It says, which inequality is true if P equals 2 and 8/10? Okay, so we underlined inequality, and we know that our variable is going to be that P is 2 and 8/10. And so something that's real important to know about inequalities, as soon as it has the word inequality show up, have your kids underline it. And then in the space provided, they're going to draw an I for inequality, and it's going to be like a mirror. And let me show you something about a mirror. If the inequality has any negative numbers in it, which this one doesn't, you have to be careful. Because I want you to notice, if this is a number line instead of a mirror, everything on the right is positive, everything on the left is negative. So what happens is that if you multiply m, see the m there, by a negative number, then you get the opposite of what you would be multiplying by. So what you're going to teach your kids is to have them draw a mirror like I'm doing here, and draw an M either direction, and these would be two less than signs. And what happens is they become two greater than signs if you're talking about negative numbers. If you're dividing, a capital D, when you place it up against the mirror, it looks the opposite. So what you have to do is, whenever you're multiplying by or dividing by a negative number, you first have to flip the signs. Since none of these are negative numbers, we don't do anything with the sign. All we have to do is plug in and do what we call guess and check. But look what happens if you add or subtract with negative numbers. The plus on one side of the mirror looks exactly the same as the plus on the other side. Same thing with the minus. So you only have to flip the signs when you're multiplying or dividing by negative numbers. So what I did was, we said that one of them is true. So another thing I'd have you recommend your kids do is write 1T and 3 F's, because it says which inequality is true, which means only one of them is the correct statement and the other ones are false. So I went ahead and wrote down all 4, and I plugged in the 2 and 8/10 to all 4 letters A, B, C, and D. And so if you look at letter A, 5 and 6/10 is not less than 4 and 7/10. It's greater than, so A is eliminated. B, when we do our math, 15 and 6/10 is not less than or equal to 13 and 44/100. It's greater than, so that would be not true, so we'll eliminate B. Letter C, 11 and 2/10 is not greater than 12 and 2/10. 11 and 2/10 is less than 12 and 2/10. So we are going to eliminate C. And I think what sometimes happens is because your kids don't have endurance, they don't have the patience, if the answer happens to be the last one, to do the work on all four. So when we do the work on the last one, 6 and 5/10 is greater than or equal to 5 and 4/100. And make sure your kids practice saying the word and on the decimal. And like I mentioned, if you use the ball trick, your kids will say the word 6 out loud. They'll bounce a ball on the floor for the word and as they're saying and then they'll say the number 5 and its address in the 10th place. Then for 5 they'll say 5 and bounce the ball on the floor as they're saying and they'll say the number 4 and its address not tenths but hundredths place. Okay, so the only one that's true is letter D. So we are going to circle D as the one that we select. Made a tiny circle. I fill it in like I've been teaching you guys. Put a D right next to it to remember, and we'll eliminate A, B, and C because in the lined paper we showed why those are not correct. So we've eliminated them. And then the last thing I'd recommend that you do is place a D right next to the number 1 or whatever number you're working on and circle it so that the 1D in the book will match the 1D in the Scantron. So the very presence of the word inequality is important to practice with your kids with multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction. We are doing multiplication here and division, but because there are no negative numbers, then we did not have to flip the sign. But just remind your kids that whether it says greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, if there's any negatives, your kids would need to flip the signs before they do the operation, or else the answer is going to be wrong. Thank you guys, and God bless.